One of the many performers that makes Hamilton so unique, John Devereaux, a Houston native. John, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jonathan. I'm doing really well this morning.
Well, it's good to have you. And listen, oceans rise, empires fall, but the power of Hamilton and the popularity of Hamilton certainly stays. I was at the theater on Saturday night, John, and it was totally jam-packed, the crowd going crazy. And this is a show that started in 2014, which was a little hard for me to believe. So why even now is this show so popular? What makes it so unique for you?
Uh, Personally, the mix of hip hop and history, it's timeless in a way. I think it's a new way to give a generation information about history and also a way to be entertained. And I think it's just with the political landscape changing all the time, the show is always going to be relevant in that way.
One of the things that stands out to me, John, and one of the things that was initially hailed about this show with Lin-Manuel Miranda's initial production is the amount, and really a predominantly African American cast, predominantly Hispanic Latino cast. What's significant about that for you as a performer and for audience as well, and just really the whole ethos of the show?
Oh, it's a story being told of yesterday, of the past, told by people, by the people, by people who look like they do today. And it's a way to see yourself in a part of the story, as a part of history. Because we only in textbooks, we read these things, and it's a way to be able to put yourself in the story, because that is the kind of point of Hamilton in a way, is who lives, who dies, who tells your story. So it's very important to be able to see ourselves on stage in that way.
And John, I think one interesting thing about this is that Hamilton himself was an immigrant. And I think that a lot of initially, I guess, what drew Lin-Manuel to sort of tell this story. And people, it's like I've seen the show a couple of times and know all the songs because I listen to it so much. But for those of us who may not have seen the show and don't know what it's all about, I think part of that, this is an immigrant story that we're telling here with Alexander Hamilton.
Yes, absolutely. To come from a faraway land, to achieve what you want to achieve when you have your whole family, your whole community behind you, rooting for you, and it's you represent them. And it's very similar to when anybody comes to America, when anybody comes to this country, they want to succeed. They have everything they own, everything they have, figuratively and literally, on the backs of their shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's heavy, and it means so much to be able to achieve the American dream.
You, as a Houston native, Westfield High School in the house.
Yeah, Westfield.
We've got a few alums in here, John, of Westfield High School, and what does it mean for you to be back in the Houston area, to be performing in front of crowds? I know your family is still here. What has that experience been like for you? What does it mean?
You can't beat it, because being on the road, I don't really get to see a lot of my family and my friends for big events, and you're kind of at the mercy of the itinerary. So I just thank God we were able to be in Houston for 4 weeks, and to be in my home and to be 20 minutes away from my family, to be near all my favorite food spots. It's just been incredible, and I've just been trying to soak it all in before we got to head out eventually.
What do you make of the reception of the audiences here in Houston compared to other places that you've performed, other places where this show has been put on? What do you make of kind of how the Houston area, and I know a lot of people coming not just from inside the loop, as you know the term, but what do you make of how the audience is taking it in?
Houston crowds are like no other. It's been crazy, because I know in 2020, we were supposed to be here in July. So we've got crowds who have been waiting 2 years for this experience, and the crowds are insane. The reception has been incredible. We feel so welcomed here. The crowds, audiences laugh when they're supposed to and clap when they're supposed to, and they're completely engaged with the story.
I'm curious, the show is so, John, well known at this point, and obviously people have seen it on Disney Plus. People have listened to the soundtrack since it's come out. How do you balance, as an actor, the production as a whole, how do you balance trying to maybe put your own take on it versus giving the audience what so many of them know and love? Is that in your mind at all? Is that in the production and the people involved? Is that in their mind at all as you put this one on here in Houston?
Oh, I think what the original Broadway cast did with the recording and with their show was especially unique. It was incredible. But there's this thing you do in theater where you kind of have to pass the baton. You say, this is your track now. This is your role. This is your show. This is, it's yours. So going back to putting your spin and telling your story, you got to put your own little stank on it. And that's what makes it so unique. That's what makes this production so rewatchable, because you're going to get to see a totally different array of how Hamilton may approach a situation, even though it's the same impetus and it's the same drive. You're going to get a different feel with every actor who steps into that role.
Yeah, yet another kind of lens and turn of that theme that you talked about, who tells your story. What's one thing, John, that the audience, that would surprise the audience about, or at least what they should know about what it takes for you, the actors, the ensemble, the characters, everybody involved to put this show on?
Oh, well, yeah, we're a traveling group of it takes about 80 of us, on stage, off stage, backstage, company management, stage management. I think it would surprise people to know what happens just behind the brick wall. Sometimes there are crazy changes. People are huffing and puffing and able to just come on stage and make it look seamless. But the work just behind the brick wall is something I think people would be really surprised about.
And finally, I got to ask, you mentioned it earlier, you're checking out some of your favorite eating spots now that you're back in Houston. Any one that you said, hey, man, I got to go there first, or I got to make sure to hit that as you got back?
Oh, yeah, Turkey Leg Hut. I've been waiting to go to this Turkey Leg Hut since we were supposed to come back in in July. I'm all the way out in the Woodlands myself, so I have to commute. So to be able to go to the Turkey Leg Hut from the theater, and they stay open till midnight, so they're open after the show. I was munching on a turkey leg for 3 whole days, and I probably shouldn't go back until we wrap things up here.
John Devereaux with us, part of the ensemble in Hamilton, also doubles as King George, which is such a great role in its own right, and certainly one of so many people's favorites. I love that one, John. I guess my girlfriend, when I saw it, she's like, "How is that the song that you take away from Hamilton?" But that's the one that always stays with me, and a catchy one. I mean, people sing along with that song, in the audience, which you don't get very often.
Yeah, it's I think it's so intentional. I think we've got a lot of geniuses and genius creatives who made this show. It's one of those things where it lends to wanting to bop your head. It's so different from the rest of the show. And I think it's to make it a point of, oh, King George is so other. He is on his own little island. And just the juxtaposition of those characters who are in the dirt, in the grime, in the rap of it all, and then you have this sort of Beatles tune sung by this one guy in a crown. And actually, interesting fact, I'm actually going to be on for King George starting tonight through Friday night. So the 8th through the 11th, I'll be on for KG3.
You can see John as King George. It's one of the most beloved roles, really, in all of Hamilton. It's so much fun. So John will take the stage as King George again, as we just learned, tonight. You said tonight through Friday. tonight through Friday
Mm-hmm.
down at the Hobby Center. John, thanks so much for spending some time with us this morning. Welcome back to Houston.
Of
I hope the
course.
rest of your stay treats you well, and break a leg out there the rest of the week, and we'll talk to you again.
All right. Appreciate it, Jonathan. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.